this place?
Somewhere long forgotten by everyone. It used to be a grand building. Now it's nothing more than a pile of rubble. No one comes here anymore, nor does anyone care about what once happened here. Although, this place does have something to do with the story I'm about to tell you. It was before I became a Harbinger, and before Linny and the others joined the House of the Hearth. Due to certain events, I first killed Clervie and then her mother. And this is where it all happened.
You were the one that killed Clervie?
Patience now. Allow me to explain Clervie's side of the story first. I'll start from the beginning. Clervie was 6 years old when she was brought by her mother, Crucabena, to live in the House of the Hearth. From the outside, it seemed like a fairy tale. A thriving family made up of kind adults and friendly children. Crucabena was the knave at that time, and the House of the Hearth was under her control. She was Clervie's mother by blood, but she was also the mother to all the children in the house. Clervie was happy here, for a time. But she quickly realized that being part of this family wasn't a fairy tale at all. It was a kind of purgatory.
Purgatory?
Exactly. The House of the Hearth takes in war orphans from all over Teyvat. But as for how to raise them, that depends entirely on the person in charge. Crucabena came up with a novel idea. She would teach the children to fight, force them to duel each other, and then crown as the king of the house the child who proved themselves most worthy of inheriting her title. It's difficult to estimate the number of children who died or were maimed in the process. There's little I can say about the ones who died. The ones that emerged with permanent injuries, on the other hand, well, they still served a purpose. They would be handed over to the doctor to be experimented on, or sent away on dangerous missions. Nothing more than tools to be used and then discarded.
So those were the experiments Clervie was talking about. But what actually happened to her? You said that Clervie was Crucabena's daughter, so if Clervie tried to convince her to stop what she was doing, Crucabena probably would have listened, right?
Despite being Clervie's mother, Crucabena cared little for her daughter. She forced Clervie to join the House of the Hearth only as a means to demonstrate her own impartiality as a mother, to prove that she treated all her children equally. Clervie did try to convince her mother to change her ways, but it was to no avail. After her efforts failed, the only other option was to rise up and try to fight back. Unfortunately, the other children had already been thoroughly indoctrinated into the illusion of happiness Crucabena had created. Of course, there was one exception. Someone Clervie's age who knew the truth about the House of the Hearth. Her name was Purgatorius.
Wait, the friend that Clervie mentioned?
Friend, huh? I suppose we can call her that for now. Clervie was a cheerful and passionate person with a tenacious spirit. Purgatorius, on the other hand, was rather cold-blooded. Her cold-blooded nature allowed her to see through Crucabena's facade. Yet, it was also this cold-bloodedness that prevented her from acting against it. At least at first. While Clervie longed for freedom, Purgatorius was convinced that, amid all the fighting and violence, she would make it until the end. Despite their differences, the two became fast friends, united by their knowledge of the truth. Clervie told Purgatorius that she hoped to create a real family, where no one would be killed or sacrificed. There may have been a certain naivete to her ideas, but Clervie proved her determination many times over. She tried countless times to run away, ask for help, or expose the truth. But her efforts only earned her beating after beating. The only thing that kept her going was her strength of will. Even with her body racked with pain, she would still stand on her tiptoes and open the window at night. She and Perouer would look out at the moon together, a fierce longing for freedom shining in her eyes. But one day that light simply vanished.
Oh no. What happened?
Her hopelessness resulted from a culmination of things. 10 years had passed. 10 years worth of failure after failure. She and Perouer weren't children anymore, but finding any chance to escape still seemed as hopeless as ever. It was during this time that Perouer suggested a new plan. If escaping was out of the question, why not take down the very person sitting on top of this throne of lies? Mother herself. Clervie rejected that proposal. She claimed that, as a famous harbinger, Crucabena possessed an unimaginable amount of power. Trying to kill her would have an incredibly low chance of success. Clervie never gave another reason, but Perouer could see it written all over her face. Clervie still thought of Crucabena as her mother. Killing her own flesh and blood was a line she couldn't bring herself to cross. If she couldn't escape and fight back, then only one option remained. Precisely. Death was the only way that she felt she could be free. It happened during a duel. When she arrived at the dueling ring that day, her partner turned out to be none other than Perouer, the very person that had stood by her side all those years. It was a fierce battle. But ultimately, Clervie decided to let Perouer end her life. From that moment on, Perouer's journey was one written in flames. When the rain finally came and washed it all away, there she stood, the sole victor in Mother's endless game of slaughter, a trail of corpses strewn across her path to success. It was the very result she had predicted 10 years prior. Even then, she believed she would make it until the end. She wasn't surprised by the fact that she emerged as Mother's undisputed heir. Rather, her success left her with an inexplicable sense of restlessness. She was unsettled, and there was only one thing that could quell that sensation. Perhaps you two would like to take a guess as to what it was?
Crucabena, you mean? But...
Correct. This is the place where Perouer killed her best friend. A mere year later, this is also the place where she fought tooth and nail to kill the mother they shared. The moment she acted, any conception of what was right or wrong ceased to matter. It's one of the principles of the house. Only those who survive get to write the rules. Perouer won the battle, and became a harbinger herself, after which Her Majesty, the Tsaritsa, bestowed upon her a new name. Arlecchino.
So the Perry Clervie was talking about... It was you all along. You're Perouer. Arlecchino is just a name you got later.
I left that name behind long ago. I must say, hearing it now does bring back memories. After I defeated Crucabena, the moniker of Mother died with her. I chose to forego the title she called herself, and even chose to give up my own name. I rebuilt the House of the Hearth under a new identity. Not only as Arlecchino, but as father. And that is where the story ends. Any more questions?
Yeah. Based on what you just told us, Clervie wasn't a little kid when she was killed. So the Clervie we met... Was she really a spirit at all?
I suppose you could call her an illusion born of flame. Her existence is like ashes to a fire. Something left over in the wake of blaze and ruin. You see, a certain power runs through my veins. It's not unlike a curse. My flames leave behind shadows of anything they consume. Of course, The chances of those shadows morphing into a sentient entity are exceedingly slim. Clervie is a very special case. Clervie died when she was 16 years old, but what emerged from the flames was her 6-year-old self. Her appearance wasn't the only thing affected. Most of her memories were lost to the blaze as well. Memory is a mysterious thing indeed. Losing a portion of your memories will alter your sense of self. Lose 10 years' worth, however, and it would be like living in the past. Like returning to a version of yourself that never grew up.
No wonder Paimon got such a weird feeling when we were talking to her.
Perhaps I should put it this way. Clervie is someone trapped in time. It may seem like she exists with us in the present, but she truly lives in the confines of her own past.
So if all of that is true, then you must have known about Clervie for a long time.
Indeed. She's a rather volatile and unstable entity. Sometimes she would look after the children. She's even saved some of their lives. But other times, she would hide from me and become obsessed with revealing the truth about the house to anyone who will listen. Shadows don't have the capacity to learn or grow. Any new information they encounter is quickly forgotten over time. Your attempts to expose Clervie to sunlight, they failed, yes? The reason is actually quite simple. In Clervie's mind, the house is impossible to escape, and it is this very perception that traps her there. But no matter. All I have to do is kill her again, and all will be resolved. I don't anticipate so much as a single speck of ash will be left behind this time.
Wait! Paimon can understand why you might want her gone, but isn't there another way? So what if she's trapped in her 6-year-old self? She's still your friend! At least talk to her first!
It's too late for that. She broke the rules, and now she must be punished. That goes for Filial and Nantoy as well. She's had quite the effect on them. I hope you understand the difference between Crucabena and myself lies in our formulation of the rules, not our policy for enforcing them. Upholding the rules without question is a trait we both share, because that is how a household should be run.
Is this really what you want to do?
Whatever could you mean?
Don't you want to say a proper goodbye at least?
Whether as a killer or as a father, there are two things that must be avoided at all costs: anger and sorrow. Anger makes you impulsive. Sorrow causes you to waver. Well, it appears it's about time to proceed. Before we arrived, I told some of my well-behaved children to bring our troublemakers here by nightfall. I do believe I've kept my end of the deal. I gave your friends quite a bit more time. As for what happens now, we'll just have to wait and see.